in this live stream. In this live stream, we're going to talk about whether you're better off skipping breakfast or skipping dinner when you're intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. And I have to say, I have a whole bunch of studies to go through. I got 7 different studies, maybe too many studies. Like the first 3 or 4 studies are relatively newer studies, and they're going to talk about the benefits of maybe eating breakfast as opposed to dinner when you're intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. And then I have another study that says there is no difference, both ways work. And then the last couple of studies that I really like, and these are the kind of studies that I'm going to recommend you do. So let's go. We're going to go through all the studies. If you have any questions, let me know. I can pull your questions up so everyone sees them. Also, let me know where you're from. I love doing these live streams because I reach people from all over the world, which is a lot of fun knowing where everyone's from. Also, if anyone's out there, I think we got a few people in the room already. Give me a thumbs up if the sound is good, if the picture's good. If anything goes wrong with this live stream, anything can happen, just let me know and I'll try to make a correction. And also, I'm going to stick around at the end once I go through all these slides and all these studies. If you have any questions on fitness, health, weight loss, nutrition, we'll answer all your questions. But try to give me a thumbs up if anyone's out there just to let me know that everything is working good. Okay, but let's get started. Okay, let's talk about, first of all, some people use these terms interchangeable, intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. The big difference is when you're doing, say, a 16-8, let's say you're fasting 16 hours, taking all your calories within an 8-hour eating window. That's the most popular type of intermittent fasting. And you do it intermittently, meaning that you don't do it every single day. I would call that intermittent fasting. But if you do 16-8 every single day, I would call that time-restricted eating. So most of the studies that I'm going to pull up are pretty much time-restricted eating studies because the researchers had the people follow, say, a particular fasting protocol, but they did it every day, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, and 3 weeks. And also, if you look below this video, I've listed all the different studies, every 7 studies, if you want to look at them in more detail. I even gave you some other resources on some other YouTubers who did like real intensive videos on each of the studies. And also keep in mind when it comes to these studies, there are pros and cons to every single study. Like, for example, some of these studies are people's recollection of like what they've been eating and the times in which they eat. So there's definitely pros and cons. Some are just smaller pilot studies, but I tried to pick human studies. One study is a combo between mice and humans, but I think you're going to find this like really informative because I know it's always been a big debate whether you should skip breakfast or skip dinner when you're doing intermittent fasting. Okay, so let's get right to it. Let's first talk about circadian rhythm, because this is a big factor. Also notice I got a couple of different cameras here, so we got some different angles. It's nice to first look at circadian rhythm and kind of understand what it is, because that's kind of why a lot of people and researchers feel that it is better to wake up in the morning and eat breakfast. Circadian rhythm is just your normal, like internal, your normal human clock. Like pretty much how your body works. Like, for example, when you wake up in the morning, the body releases the stress hormone cortisol, which actually releases carbohydrates into the bloodstream to help wake you up. Okay, so just keep in mind circadian rhythm. And circadian rhythm really influences your metabolism, your cells, your digestion, your growth. So circadian rhythm is a big deal. And it also is pretty much regulated, mostly regulated, if you look at the slide, primarily by light and dark. So a lot of people do feel that when it comes to eating, you should really stick to your normal circadian rhythm. So a lot of the studies that are going to point out that it is better to eat breakfast, to wake up and eat something, it really mostly has to do with your circadian rhythm. And another point with the studies, I'm going to point them out when we go through them. Some of these studies were done on people who are like pre-diabetic or had like metabolic type syndrome. So when you're looking at and you're evaluating these studies, you have to kind of think of like the population that they were researching. For example, if you are pre-diabetic, you have metabolic syndrome, you have different issues, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, you might be insulin resistant, you might be leptin resistant. And what I mean by insulin resistant, meaning that your cells might not be responding to insulin, it's the same. So if they would do a study on, say, a population of, say, just lean individuals who don't have these issues, you might get a different result. But you can always learn from these studies. So it's always a great thing to do. And just if anyone's out there, give me a thumbs up to make sure the sound and everything's coming good, because I just want to make sure everything's going through. I haven't had any comments come through yet. So if you can, I would really appreciate it if we can get a thumbs up or anything, or even a thumbs down if things are not working right. But I'm going to assume everything is good, and we'll keep going. Okay, so let's check out this first study. I really like this first study. And actually, I came across this study from a new podcast that I've been listening to, and I listed it, the podcast. He takes his podcast, thumbs up. Oh, thanks, Manny. I appreciate it. Everything's coming through. This guy who turned me on to this particular study, his name is 𝙒𝘼𝙏𝙏. He's like, he's a professor at Stanford. You know, you can't get any smarter than him. PhD in neuroscience, super smart guy. And I was listening to him on a podcast talk about this. Sounds good. Let me pull this up just so you guys see how we can see. Let me show you how this works. See, I can pull these comments, and I appreciate that the sound is coming out good. So if you have any questions, you know, I can pull them into the video so everyone can learn. So I also linked his YouTube channel. If you want to learn about neuroscience and how the brain works, how the body works, definitely check out his YouTube channel and his podcast. Really love it. So let's talk about this first study. This first study talked about the importance of taking in protein earlier in the day. And this was a combination study on mice, and I'll blow it up a little bit so you can see it here, both on mice and on humans. And what this study determined that the people who took in most of their protein earlier in the day had much better, like maintaining muscle mass better, had better muscle hypertrophy, that means increased muscle mass and grip strength, as opposed to people who took in their protein later in the day. So this study really made me rethink my whole intermittent fasting strategy, meaning that I typically would always skip breakfast. If you follow me on YouTube, I'm sure you do. You know, me and my wife have been intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating for over 12 years. I've experimented and tried every possible protocol, but we typically always skip breakfast because it just fit much better into my schedule and me and my wife's schedule. But I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video, how I plan on changing things a little bit. So 𝙒𝘼𝙏𝙏 also was talking about, he was doing it more like I was. He was always skipping breakfast. But after reading this study, he's going to change his strategy and start maybe eating breakfast and skipping dinner. Because obviously, if you know me, I own a gym for 30 years. I'm into resistance training. I want to maintain my muscle mass when I get older. And I even want to increase my muscle mass if it's possible at my age 59. So taking in protein earlier in the day might be something you really want to consider if you're doing these intermittent fasting studies. Let's say what Manny's got to say. Okay, so we got a question here. I struggle with sleep if I try to skip dinner. So usually skip breakfast. You know, Manny, I totally hear you about that. Sometimes it's the same thing with me. I don't like to go to sleep necessarily hungry. But I'm going to talk about it later in the video. I'm going to do it like an abbreviation of this, where maybe you're eating a little bit later in the morning and maybe eating dinner a little bit early and getting the best of both worlds. I'm going to talk about that in great detail towards the end of the video. Okay, let's go on to this second study. Now, this second study compared people. This was a pretty detailed study, and the interesting thing about the study is that this is people's recollection, what they did. Like if you blow this up, let me blow up the actual study. Let's slide it over here so you can look at it. See, this is the National Examination Survey, the National Health Examination Survey, which researchers have access to, where they look at people's recall. For example, the people in this study, every 24 hours would write down like what they were eating, the times of day they were eating. And this was a pretty interesting result from this study. And it was somewhat surprising to me, and even surprising to the researchers until they broke it down. What they were saying is that people who ate breakfast later in the morning, okay, and also people who ate dinner later in the evening had much worse numbers when it comes to like cardiovascular health, inflammation, insulin control. Like for example, if you would eat breakfast 8 in the morning, you were better off than if you eat breakfast at 9 in the morning or 10 in the morning. Same thing with dinner. The earlier you ate dinner, the better off you would be. For example, if you're eating dinner at 9 o'clock compared to someone who ate dinner at 6 in the evening, the people who ate dinner earlier had better numbers. And what I mean by numbers, some of these common numbers you might be familiar with them from your blood work are C-reactive protein. That's the inflammation marker that's really common in people's blood work. A1C, that's the hemoglobin number, you know, like how your body is processing glucose over a 3-month period. Obviously, insulin, I talk about insulin constantly. Insulin's the storage hormone. When you're eating food, the pancreas produces insulin to store away the excess calories. A big issue with all this, we all know about it, insulin resistance. If you're constantly cranking out like large insulin within your body and having trouble controlling blood sugar, you become insulin resistant. People had better glucose numbers when they had breakfast earlier and dinner earlier. LDL and HDL, their blood work was better when they had breakfast earlier and when they had dinner earlier. Kind of an interesting study. Let's see what we got here. Another question. It's hard to skip dinner and breakfast because lunch is rather. No, I understand that. No, for sure. It's definitely intermittent fasting is definitely not for everyone, but there's still a lot of benefits to it. We're going to go into it in a lot more detail in the video. I'm going to give you my exact recommendations how you can do that. If you have a hard time skipping dinner, or if you have a hard time skipping lunch, like for example, this is an example of, let's say you're doing the OMAD. Let's say you're fasting for 23 hours and taking a calorie within an 8-hour eating window. This study would say that instead of breaking your fast in like 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening, this study would say you're better off doing that 1-hour eating window or even a 2-hour eating window, which are like earlier in the day, like during lunch or maybe during late morning, during breakfast, which is something to consider. And that's why I gave you these studies. So if you want to read them in depth, and also there's another YouTuber who I like. His site, his YouTube channel is called Fledge Fitness. His whole site's on intermittent fasting. He did a really good video on this exact study, and he really broke it down well. I gave you a link below this video to check it out. I would check it out. It's definitely interesting, definitely worth watching. And I like it. His name is Edward. He does a lot of great videos on intermittent fasting. Okay, let's go to the third study. Okay, this is another interesting study. This study looked at like circadian rhythm and how it affects glucose. Like for example, if you're eating food in the morning, your glucose response compared to eating food in the evening, your glucose response, meaning that how much of a spike in blood sugar do you get, right? And this study showed, once again, this is a study that was done on people with pre-diabetes. So you always, like I said, you always have to keep that in mind, meaning that if you're pre-diabetic, most likely you are insulin resistant, most likely you're leptin resistant, and most likely you may have metabolic type syndrome, like you may have high blood pressure, you may have high cholesterol. So keep in mind that that's what this results show. But this show that people who took in like a lot of their calories in the evening had worse like insulin sensitivity, had higher glucose type numbers, and the research is suggesting that you probably should reduce the amount of calories you're eating in the evening. Take in your calories more earlier in the day. And this is a little bit of an older study. I think this study was out in 2014, which is still relevant though. Good study, something to keep in mind. So these first 3 studies are making a pretty good argument that if you are intermittent fasting, or if you're just eating normally, say you're eating 3 meals a day within a 12-hour eating window, you're probably better off taking in your calories earlier in the day, especially when it comes to protein. Have protein for breakfast, protein for lunch, right? And when it comes to dinner, if you're intermittent fasting, either skip dinner or reduce the amount of calories you're having for dinner. So 3 studies pointing in that direction. And here's another study. I like this study. I think I did a video about this study myself. This is an interesting study. This is a time-restricted eating study that compared people who did, restricted their eating window to 8 a.m. in the morning to 2 p.m. in the evening. So your typical 16-8, and they compared it to people who just ate within, say, 3 meals within a 12-hour eating window, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I wanted to throw this study in because it just talked about how time-restricted eating, and they see this little E in the slide, that's how people abbreviate it. Early time-restricted eating really does work. And it worked on a couple of different levels. The people who did time-restricted eating lost weight, and they also did, but the big takeaway from this study is that they had reduced appetite. Like the ghrelin is like the appetite, the hunger hormone that's released, and people had lower ghrelin levels from doing time-restricted eating earlier in the day. So like eating breakfast, eating lunch, skipping dinner, or just pretty much done eating by 2 in the afternoon, compared to people who ate within a 12-hour eating window. So this is like another study, and it's a relatively new study talking about the benefits of doing intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating earlier in the day. Okay, but now I want to pull up this study. Let me take a quick sip. Now this is a study. Now this is one of the studies that I looked at years ago, and another guy, his name is Simm. He has a great YouTube channel. I really like his channel too. I linked it below this video. He does a lot about intermittent fasting. He wrote a book on autophagy. You know, I made a video about whether you should skip breakfast or lunch a couple of years ago on intermittent fasting, and I looked at the research, and this is one of the main studies I looked at, and I determined, and also Simm in his video determined, that there really is no difference whether you skip breakfast or skip dinner. And this is pretty much what this study showed. So this study looked at people who did time-restricted eating between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. versus a late time-restricted eating protocol between 12 p.m. and 9 p.m. And this showed that there really wasn't any difference. The glycemic response was pretty equal during both groups. So this was one of the studies that says, you know, these studies do contradict themselves. So in my opinion, you're still going to get a great benefit with intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating if you just skip breakfast. And this is a study that will back that up as well. So don't feel you have to eat breakfast if it doesn't fit in your schedule, because it really doesn't fit into my schedule. I'm going to talk about that later on in this live stream. Okay, let's go to another one. This study, I actually love this study. I did a whole video on this study. I linked it below. The reason why I like this study so much is that this study was done on weightlifters, and I'm a weightlifter, obviously. And one of the things I like about this study is that when they compared the people doing time-restricted eating, a 16-8, compared to people who were doing more of a traditional, say, 12-hour eating window, these people, it was a really controlled study, meaning that they ate the same amount of calories in both groups, right? The same macro, the same protein, fats, and carbohydrates. So it was really controlled. See, one group did your typical 16-8, starting in 1 in the afternoon, and this is a late in the day, skipping breakfast, keep that in mind, and they were done eating their last meal by 8 p.m., whereas the other group did your typical 8 a.m., noon, maybe like 7 p.m. in the evening. Same calories, same amount of protein, carbs, and fats. And what this study showed is that the group that did the time-restricted eating lost more body fat, dramatically more body fat than the control group, maintained their muscle mass, also had better blood work. So this is a really good study. Unfortunately, it was only on men. It would be nice to have some women in the study. But this did show that even with the calories the same, you can actually drop body fat, maintain your muscle mass, skipping breakfast, doing like a classic traditional 16-8. And this is how most of me and my wife, this is how I've been doing most of my intermittent fasting over the last 12 years. And I put so many people on strategies like this, and so many people, including myself and my wife, have done amazingly well. So we got a little contradiction in the studies here, but I just want to go full circle with all this. Okay, now let's go to the last study. I really like this study too, and I also did a video on this study. And this is where I'm going to lead everyone to in the end of this live stream. This study looked at people doing time-restricted eating who only delayed breakfast. Like, it was really simple. They just delayed breakfast by 90 minutes, and then they ate dinner 90 minutes earlier. So for example, instead of them eating breakfast at 9 in the morning, they had breakfast at like 10:30, right? Instead of eating dinner at 7 in the evening, they would have dinner at 5:30. And this is the direction I think we all should maybe go in. And what the study shows, that the people who did that actually lost considerably more body fat than the control group, which just ate normally. And this was really interesting. I talk about this all the time. This study also showed that just by delaying breakfast 90 minutes and then eating dinner 90 minutes sooner, 57% of the people doing that consume less calories. And that's what I think one of the biggest benefits of intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, is when you give yourself a smaller eating window, even a slightly smaller window like this study shows, most people are going to eat less food and take in less calories. And in my opinion, that's one of the biggest benefits of intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating. Besides all those incredible hormonal benefits like low insulin levels, of being in a fasted state, A lot of your results of losing body fat and improving your health are going to come from restricting calories, from giving yourself a smaller eating window. And then when you jump from beyond just delaying breakfast 90 minutes and eating dinner 90 minutes or sooner to going to like a 16-8 or an 18-6 or a 20-hour fast, you're going to eat even less. So this is a really, 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 really good study. Okay. So now, first, before I go on, like what I think you should do, any questions about these studies and anything you want me to cover? Let me see. I missed Harriet. Harriet had a comment here. Okay. I find it much easier for me to skip dinner. My first meal in the morning is around 11, and then I can last the whole day without eating. That's Harriet. You are doing it perfectly. I don't think you can do it better. You're actually sticking to the research. I think it's the best. I think that's probably one of the best strategies you can follow. And that's what I'm going to kind of recommend going forward now, eating like a late breakfast and a very early dinner, or eating maybe a very late lunch. I think that's the way to go. Okay, so let's talk about, okay, like I just said, let's go. What should you do? Okay, it's probably better from this new research and in general, and just staying with your circadian rhythms, that it probably is better to take in calories earlier in the day if it fits into your lifestyle. Like for me, that's somewhat difficult because, I own a gym. My first client almost every single day, except Saturdays, is like 6:15 in the morning. I may train 3 people in a row. I could have a 6:30, a 7:30, an 8:30. When I wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not hungry. So even though the research is probably indicating that it might be better to eat breakfast, it just doesn't fit into my lifestyle. And I don't want people to feel, that's why I showed a number of studies. You're still going to get tremendous benefit, in my opinion, if you eat breakfast. If you skip breakfast and do a traditional like 16-8 where you're breaking your fast at 12 in the afternoon. Let's see, Dave's got a question here. Let's see what we got here. Okay, what about water intake affect? Oh no, David, I would drink a ton of water. My general rule, I'm sure you've heard other people say this, is you want to drink half your body weight in ounces of water every single day. So if you're 150 pounds, you take in 75 ounces of water. And I like to say, especially when you're fasting, you want to make sure you're keeping your electrolytes up. So you want to take in a little sodium. So I always recommend mineral water. I love Pellegrino mineral water. Plus it's high in magnesium. You get a little calcium. You get some sodium. Another thing people do, you can take, like during your fasting period, you can take a little pinch of sea salt and throw it in your water. You want to keep your sodium up for sure. Especially if you're eating low carb. Most are a big believer in that low carb, whole natural food diet. When you lose, when you deplete carbohydrates from your system, you definitely need a little bit more sodium in your diet for sure, because you're going to be losing water. Let's see what Deborah has to say. Okay, Deborah. I eat a little snack around noon. Do intermittent fasting usually 20 hours each day, and finish dinner around 4:30. I don't even have to Deborah, I think that's great. I think you're right on. I love it. I actually love it. I think that's like probably the perfect thing you can do. If what would make it maybe slightly better, and that's what's going to be my recommendation, like even in the next slide, is if maybe not breaking the fast at noon. If you can break the fast at say 10:30, 11, maybe a little bit earlier, but then you have to have your last meal. Instead of 4:30, you're having your last meal like 3 o'clock. That might be better, but I still love what you're doing. A big key to this, I find, and this is what I'm going to change, is that you just cannot eat, in my opinion, late at night. And maybe you want to make your first meal your protein meal. So maybe you want to make sure you're eating protein for your first meal, and then don't eat anything late at night. If you can be done with dinner by 6 o'clock the latest, and then no food after that, my typical schedule was I would fast long periods during the day. I may not break my fast till 2 in the afternoon, but then I might have dinner at 7 in the evening, 7:30. But I'm going to change that. I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. This is what I'm going to do. Let's see what Deborah says here. Okay, yeah, try that, Deborah. See, but hey, I think you're doing great. So I don't want to mess anyone up with these studies, because once again, like these studies, there's pros and cons to all of them. If you're doing great with 12 to 4:30, I think that's great. But another thing I would do, Deborah, I know you said you're doing this every single day. I also would mix it up a little bit. That's what I'm going to be talking about here, because I also think it's really important to cycle your calories. So I wouldn't do the same thing every day for more than a few weeks, and then I would do either two things. Either I would take a diet break, Don't fast at all for a week. Up your calories to at least maintenance. Make sure you're getting enough vitamins and minerals and nutrients. Or I would mix up your fasting strategy. You're doing like time-restricted eating, fasting for those, 20 hours. You're probably in a calorie deficit. I would probably mix it up, meaning that maybe one day do a 16-8, do that for a couple of days. I would mix it up a little bit. That's the only thing I would recommend that you do. But I don't want to mess you up. If you're feeling good and everything's doing great, stick with it. But just keep that in mind. Okay. So this is like, for example, let me talk about like, if I'm looking at all these studies, like what I plan on doing going forward and what I like the best. What I was telling Deborah, I like to vary my intermittent fasting strategies constantly. Okay, I'll try it out. Great, Deborah, I'm glad you think it makes sense. Cool. See, I like to vary my intermittent fasting strategies all the time for multiple reasons. Like I was telling Deborah, first of all, I like to cycle my calories. Because you see, whenever you lose weight, no matter what, your metabolism is going to slow down to some degree. It's called metabolic adaptation. Just think you're smaller. Like let's say you used to weigh 200 pounds and now you weigh 180. You don't need as many calories, so your metabolism is going to slow down. But if you do, say, an aggressive intermittent fasting strategy, like let's say you are fasting, or let's say you're doing OMAD, you're doing a 23-hour fast every single day, you're most likely, like 99% of people are going to be in a pretty aggressive calorie deficit. If you stay in a calorie deficit for extended periods of time, for like weeks and weeks and weeks, you can over-exaggerate that slowdown in your metabolism. Right? That's why I think calorie cycling works so well. That's why bodybuilders do so well when they do these extremes like calorie counting type diets. They restrict calories, but then they do like feed days or cheat days. They do things like that, so they're cycling the calories and they're giving their metabolism a boost. Because when you eat food, especially when you're eating protein, because protein has a high thermic effect, meaning that when you eat 100 calories of protein, you're going to burn up 25-30% of those calories just digesting and processing the protein. So I think it's really important to cycle your calories. So that's why I like to vary my intermittent fasting strategy, so I don't necessarily have to count calories, but some days I'm eating more, some days I'm eating less. So like one day I might do a 16-8. One day I might do an 18-6. The next day I might do a 20-hour fast like Deborah. Then I might do a 23-hour fast. Oh, let's see who's in the room. Oh, Danny's in the room. That's great. Danny. Hey, Danny, thanks for showing up. Danny's like an incredible, trainer, fitness trainer. He's based in Ireland. And so if you're in Ireland, check him out. He's does such incredible work. He's a wonderful guy. And I think he had a newborn child, which is amazing. I'm sure he's busy with that as well. Okay, so I really love, cycling calories, that's for sure. Plus, sometimes too, you never want to get caught. Meaning, I have had numerous clients who would do an OMAD diet for extended periods of time, and then they wind up tired, exhausted, malnourished. You got to make sure you're taking in enough vitamins and minerals and nutrients. So either you can do a strategy where you're changing your intermittent strategy like every single day, or another thing I love is that you just stick to one strategy for a couple of weeks. Let's say you're doing a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour eating. When you do it for 2 weeks like Deborah's doing, then you just go to an intermittent strategy where you're eating more. So I like to vary my strategy either every single day, I might do that for a week or two, and then I might just stick to a real strict strategy. For example, I went away a few weeks ago, and I was just at a wedding. I feel like I overate, took in too much food, gained a little bit of weight. So I did a really strict intermittent fasting strategy for an entire 7 days. I made a video about it, put it on Instagram, where I fasted for 20 hours every day, ate 1.5 meals, prioritizing protein for my 4-hour eating window. I did that for a solid week. But then the next week, I started mixing it up. But based on all this research, this is what I'm going to do going forward. Even when I'm using all these different intermittent fasting strategies, I am going to try to make an effort to just eat earlier in the day and then just eat earlier in the evening. And I'm going to be a little general with it, meaning that I'm not going to wake up at 5 in the morning and start eating before I get to my first client at 6 o'clock. But I'll train 3 people, and I might have my first meal. Instead of me waiting to do, even if I'm doing, say, a 20-hour fast or an 18-hour fast, I'm not going to wait till 1, 2 o'clock and then have a late dinner. I'm going to try to break my fast as early as I possibly can while prioritizing protein. And my formula for protein is 0.9 grams per pound of lean body weight. So say you're 150 pounds, I talk about this all the time, so you get 20% body fat, so you got 130 pounds of lean mass, times that by 0.9, you're at like 115, 120 grams of protein every day. That's kind of like my formula. Even 1 gram per pound of lean weight I think is fine. You could even go a little bit higher. So I'm going to try to break my fast earlier in the day if I can. So if I break my fast at say 11 o'clock, even 10:30, that means I have to have a much earlier dinner depending upon what intermittent fasting strategy I'm doing for that week or doing for that day. I'm going to really eliminate the late night eating. I'm not going to do these like, 16-8 or 18-6 fasting where me and my wife are eating at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night anymore. I'm really going to try to take in my calories earlier in the day. I think I can do it. I tried it a couple times in the past. It didn't work, but I tried to eat breakfast way too early. Like I tried to eat breakfast like first thing in the morning. And that just did not work for me. I'm not hungry and I'm just too busy in the morning. I'm going to try to, and I'll report back, I'll see, maybe my body fat levels will go down. Maybe I'll feel like I'll put on a little more muscle mass, feel a little bit stronger. I'll just see how it goes. Let's see it. But that's what I would recommend to you. Varying your intermittent strategies all the time to cycle calories, just to mix it up. And I would try to eat earlier in the day and earlier in the evening. And like that one study showed, even if it's just like a 90-minute shift, you're going to get some benefit from it. Okay, and then we'll see what the new research, this intermittent fasting thing, it's really catching on, and they're like new studies are coming out. I'm going to do another video next week. I've read another study about alternate day fasting. I'm going to do a video on that. And I'm thinking about maybe every week doing a video, just a casual video, just quick, almost like a vlog video explaining my intermittent fasting strategy, like what I'm going to do this week. Like I map out for everyone. So maybe if you want to follow along with me, like this is what I'm doing this week. Like I'm doing 16-8 one day, 18-6 the next, 28 the third day, or maybe I'm just doing this whole time-restricted eating strategy for the whole week. I'm thinking about maybe doing that, just a quick video every single Monday, release it every Monday, and then people can follow along with me for the week. Okay, let's see what we got here. We got another cool question. Okay, I don't get hungry in the morning usually, so the only calories I have is under 50 in my coffee. Okay, but I still have to have at least 2 meals in the afternoon and evening, or I feel bad. I don't think that's wrong, but I would just do this. Try this if you can. Just make sure when you're taking your calories in the evening, try to do it a little bit earlier. Like if you can be done eating by 6 o'clock, like no food after 6 o'clock, see if you can do it. And that's what kind of like the new research is indicating. And when it comes to that first meal, prioritize protein when you're breaking your fast, even if it's lunchtime, even if it's 12 o'clock. Prioritize protein there, and then if you're going to take some carbs with your protein, do it in the evening and try to eat that evening meal as early as possible. Okay, let's see what Chris got here. Chris D. Okay, D. 12-12 is also amazing. Even 12 hours. No, I agree. I think 12-12 is good. I mean, it looks like you're in great shape there, Chris. And I know you comment on a lot of when I do videos on like fitness and weight training, I know you're a knowledgeable guy on that. I agree. I mean, hey, there's tons of studies out there that says just calorie restriction, eating 2 meals a day or 3 meals a day works just as well as intermittent fasting. Hey, bodybuilders, resistance, training athletes and physique athletes have been doing it their whole lives, and, calorie counting. And with a 12-hour eating window is great. See, most people, I think you can do well with a 12-hour eating window. Most people, that's even an improvement. Studies have shown most people eat 15, 16 hours a day. They're waking up in the middle of the night, they grab a little snack, It's 12 hours is reasonable. I mean, that is time-restricted eating, in my opinion, doing a 12-hour fast. There's great research when you get to about 14 hours. It prevents there's so many amazing benefits to even a 14-hour fast. Let's see what we got here. Let me pull this in. Okay. I do that on my tennis days because I start tennis at 7, so I stop eating at 6 p.m. those days and just drink water with electrolytes. I think that's great. No, that makes sense. If you can be done by like 6, 7 o'clock, I would say 6 o'clock, I think you'll get a lot of benefit. I think it's probably a better way to go. Let me change screen. Let's go straight up Q&A. Let's talk about anything you guys want. Any questions about fitness, health, weight loss, workouts, anything? Let me know. We can stick on this intermittent fasting strategy. I always like to go like 45 minutes to an hour. I have to say it took me so much time. I probably overdid it with the studies. I mean, I read all 7 of these studies like multiple times, anticipating people asking me a lot of questions about it and setting it up. Next time with the live stream, maybe I'll just stick to, if I pull studies in, maybe just a couple of studies. I think I may have overdone it a little bit. And also, if you're asking a question, there seems to be a little bit of delay, so just give me a minute or two, before you see it. And also, let me pull some other things here. Let me give you an idea of some of the meals that I've been eating lately, because I know people love to see like exactly what I'm eating. I would keep a slide of all my meals when people always ask. Like if you look on my Instagram account, if you look me up like 𝘾𝙃𝙏 on Instagram, you'll see all my meals and exactly how I eat. I've been eating like this a lot lately. Let me pull this one in. You know, basically, you know, especially when I break my fast, now that I've been trying to emphasize protein, I like the research. Oh, thanks, Dave. I like research and opinion. I agree. Thanks. Let me pull this in here. I'll show you. You can see if I can get this in the slide. Okay, let's see. Here, let me just make it a little bit smaller. This is kind of what I mean when I use the term like I'm prioritizing protein. This is what I'm talking about. Like a general rule is every 4 ounces of chicken, fish, and meat has about 25 grams of protein. I personally like to take in like about 150 grams of protein a day. So what I'm eating here, I think this is like just your ideal meal, like to break your fast. I have about 6 ounces here. It's like smoked salmon. I'm getting like 25, 30 grams of protein there. I think this is a 4 or 5 ounce like grass-fed, grass-finished chopped meat, a little red meat. So right here, I'm getting my 50, 60 grams of protein. If you follow me, you know, I even got a big video. I did a video years ago. I think I got like 40, 50,000 views on eating an avocado every day. I love avocado. I think you should eat an avocado every day, loaded with potassium, tons of fiber in avocado, so the net carbs are relatively low. And I've been treating myself lately. You know, there are times when I really don't eat fruit, but lately, this summer especially, I've been really eating a lot of berries. Not a lot, but I've been eating berries almost every day. So here's like just a handful of blueberries. It makes the meal so much more fun. Like people get on my case saying, Mike, you eat the same things, you're posting the same meals. I find that when it comes to lunch, I definitely eat the same foods like over and over again. I eat sardines every day. Let me pull another one in here for you. See, this one's like really similar. I think I just had like strawberries. Let me see if I can get it in here. I just had strawberries instead of let's see if it's gonna come in. There we go. See, I just had some strawberries instead of the blueberries. But see, I also every now and then, which is almost like a treat, which is like dessert for me, I had this grass-fed, grass-finished plain Greek yogurt, 16 grams of protein right there. I love Greek yogurt. It's great. And if you notice here, this is more than just 6 ounces of smoked salmon. This is 8 ounces of smoked salmon. There's a famous salmon smokehouse right near my gym in Mount Kisco, New York. Love it. Now, this is another what I think is just like the perfect way to break your fast. Prioritizing protein, a little bit of fiber, healthy fats. It's great. Okay, let's see what we got here. Got some more questions. Okay, I'm currently doing testosterone advantage plan by Lou. It's not really low carb. It's more of a 30-30, like 1/3, 3-3-3 for macros. But I've had success with it before, and I've lost 10 pounds. No, I think that sounds great. Why not? I think 30-30-30 is okay. I mean, if you know, I love like low carb, prioritizing protein, but I'm not necessarily keto. I've been in ketosis for like a few weeks, and I consider myself somewhat fat adapted, but I think that's a great plan. It's kind of like the zone diet, but like a little less carbs, a little bit more protein. I think that's totally fine. Let's see what Deborah's got here. We got another question from Deborah. Okay, I walk at 4 a.m., 4 miles per day. Oh, I love that, Deborah. I love it. First thing in the morning, that's great. Lift weights once a week. I eat a bit of chocolate right after my last meal with exercise daily. I think that sounds great. I love the 4 miles first thing in the morning. I'm assuming you're doing that in a fasted state because you weren't breaking your fast till 12. That's great. I would stay well hydrated. I hope the chocolate is a dark chocolate. I love dark chocolate. That's one of the things I probably eat too much of. I eat this bar that's like 88% dark chocolate, and you have to be careful with dark chocolate. Read the package, because sometimes when you get the chocolate that goes to like 90% dark, they alkalize it. And they strip all the good stuff, the polyphenols, the flavin, all the good stuff gets removed from the chocolate. So if it says Dutch processing or alkalized, they're ruining the chocolate. Just be careful. But even a little, you seem like you're doing so well. Even a little bit of milk chocolate is not going to hurt you. Let's see what he said. Yes, I'm fasted. Oh yeah, that's great, Deborah. And yes, it's dark chocolate cool. Could even anything over 70% is good, but I like to stay 85 or higher. Well, let's see. I think we got another one here. Okay, I understand I eat a lot of salmon and turkey or chicken sandwiches and cottage cheese. That sounds good. No, I love it. I mean, if you can go, I know it costs more money. If you can go with the the wild caught or the pasture raised chickens and all things like that, sounds good. I mean, I think that's great. I think 30 is a reasonable macro mix, especially if it's worked for you in the past. I would stick with it. Like you're saying, it is good for testosterone. You know, not going too low on any of the macros. You know, you want the fat, you want the protein, you want the carbs. Good for testosterone, you know, for sure. Sleeping, biggest thing. If you want to increase testosterone levels, I would definitely focus on getting good quality sleep for sure. Let me pull in another one of my meals to show you guys. Let's see what we got here. Let me pull one with sardines. I'll show you my sardines that I always eat. Let's see if we can get this one here. See some of my files for something. I don't know if anyone has been experiencing this. When it comes to like my Apple computer, all of a sudden everything's been going into my cloud, and I have to like pull it out of the cloud first. See, this is another great, I think a perfect meal to break your fast with. Like for example, we had shrimp from the night before, so we got some Gulf caught shrimp, incredible source of protein. And these are the sardines, and I like the Henry and Lisa's brand of sardines. I think they're the best tasting sardines. I buy the ones that are packed in olive oil. Plus, I'm also into a PBA-free can. This is a PBA-free can. I love these sardines. Sardines are so good because not only are you getting the omega-3s, the healthy fats, and the protein, but you're getting the skin, the bone, the connective tissue. I love eating sardines. I used to eat them every day, but I probably have them now maybe 3-4 times a week. So I'm getting, at one can is about 26 grams of protein, getting another 10-15 grams of protein with the shrimp. Then I had some sauteed string beans, which were left over from last night, and garlic and oil, which I love. Once again, my avocado. I really never miss a day without an avocado. And I also try to do like fermented foods every single day. So this is a pickle. You know, fermented foods feeds the good bacteria in your stomach. So there's a pickle. Sometimes I'll do sauerkraut. Even if I miss it for lunch, I'll make sure I'll have a pickle, like a couple of pickles as a dessert, for dinner. So I think fermented foods are really a good thing. Even the yogurt, like the yogurt's a fermented food, feeds the good bacteria in your stomach. I definitely would eat some fermented foods all the time. Let me see. Let me pull up one more meal. Let me pull you up like a dinner. Let me pull you up this dinner just to show you. I give you my dinner formula. I know I've done some other videos on this. See, when it comes to dinner, I like to have a nice big piece of protein, and then I like to have I always like to have two different colored vegetables with the protein. Let's see, where did that go? Let me see if I can get it. Yeah. So this would be like an example. I think this is cod, and then we have like a nice piece of cod. It's hard to tell from this picture, but this is almost a pound. I can eat 12 to 16 ounces of cod every single night, some asparagus, and some cauliflower. So I always like to go with different colors, like different vitamins, different minerals, different nutrients, eat a rainbow color of vegetables. So a nice big piece of protein, two different colored vegetables. And if you notice, the things I do stay away from the starches and the grains, unless I'm looking to do like a carb refeed or something. Like you don't see me having rice, you don't see me having bread, you don't see me having pasta, or even potatoes. I love potatoes, but it's a real treat for me. Even a sweet potato, there are some good things in sweet potato. And actually, I did a few videos on this. There's even research that says that if you are going to do like a carb refeed, let's say you want to have a baked potato, so let's say you want to have some rice or some bread with your meal. Studies have shown now that if you wait, for example, let's say you have a dinner like this, where you're taking high fiber type carbs along with your protein, but you still want to have a baked potato. Say you want to fill up your glycogen store, say you want to fill your muscles up with glycogen to work out the next day, or just maybe you feel like your glycogen is low, like when you eat carbohydrates, excess carbs are stored in your muscles in the form of glycogen. The average person holds anywhere between 12 to 1,500 calories. You're better off having that baked potato or that piece of bread or that rice about 45 minutes after the meal. And that produces a much less glucose response, a much less blood sugar response. Your body can handle it better. So sometimes I will do that. So if I've been eating like pretty low carb, and I'm feeling a little tired in the gym, and I feel like I want to just like volumize my muscle cells, I fill in my glycogen stores, that's what I'll do. I'll have my normal dinner, but then I'll wait 45 minutes, and then I'll have a sweet potato, or have a baked potato, I'll have some rice, I'll have some bread. It's interesting. I heard talk about this. Ben Bikman in his book, Why We Get Sick. Great book. Who else did I hear? I heard Ben Greenfield from Ben Greenfield Fitness, another podcast I listen to all the time. He talks about that. He takes his carbs, like, maybe after dinner, late in the evening sometimes. It's something you may want to consider. And plus, it just gives your body a little more time to process everything, so it doesn't convert it, hopefully doesn't convert it into body fat. And it minimizes the insulin spike. Let's see what Danny's got something here. Okay, that's a good tip, waiting. Yeah, no, it is, Danny. You know, I did a video on it maybe like a year or so ago. I'll pull up the video after this and I'll put it below this if you want to watch the video. But it's an interesting study. It was hard to find the study. I read it in Ben Bikman's book. He references studies saying how delay when you take in your carbohydrates post meal, and it produces a much less insulin and glucose blood sugar response. And I found the study and did a quick video about it. Kind of interesting. Definitely interesting. For sure. All right, 47 minutes. I mean, I'm willing to go an hour if anyone has any more questions out there. How's it going with the baby, Danny? You guys getting any sleep? You and your wife? Oh, I don't know. I've been seeing you posting stuff up on Facebook that you're doing some, I think some martial arts type classes, and you got a lot of cool things going on. I'm glad you're doing well with that. I used to teach classes so many years ago. Yes, put the video. I definitely will, Dan. I'll look for it, right after this, and I'll post it. Let's see. Okay. I've heard some nutritional people say that protein should be consumed soon after workout, but it seems you don't agree. No, it's interesting. Okay, another book that I live by was called Nutrient Timing for like 20 years. I think John Levy wrote the book, and he really made an incredible argument saying, like, and you've heard so many resistance people talk about this, and bodybuilders and physique actors saying that you have that, that optimal window post-workout to take in your protein. You're going to absorb it better. It's going to be better for protein synthesis. And I have to say, I did really well with that. Like, for so many years, right after my workout, I'd have a protein shake, and I still do it, from time to time, especially because I work out later in the day. If I work out at noon, like fasted, 1 o'clock, I'll break my fast. I may do a protein shake even before maybe that first meal that I just showed you. But it seems like the newer research is saying that there might be something to that, but it's more important just to take in enough protein in general, just throughout the day. That's the number one. So even if you're doing, maybe you can do a little bit better when it comes to protein synthesis, having a protein-rich meal post-workout, like right after, within like 20 minutes after your workout. But if that's your only protein you're taking in all the day, it's more important, in my opinion, and I think the research is leading towards this, just to take in enough protein throughout the whole day. The digestive process is so complex, and the body knows how to use protein, throughout the whole day. So I just would eat enough protein. That would be the big takeaway when it comes to that. Let's see what Danny's got here. Yeah. Not too much, right? Yes, I'm teaching kickboxing as well as PT. Yeah, I know it's hard to get to sleep with the baby, but I'm glad you're doing well with the kickboxing as well as the personal training. That's great. That's great. Let's see. Let's see what this Dave's got to say. Okay, what blood marker should I look for to request to see? It depends on where you're coming from, Dave. I definitely like the regular ones that, your doctor would do, like the C-reactive protein. That's a normal one. I mean, I do like people to get that that pre-diabetes number, that A1C number. A lot of people, that's not really a standard blood work unless the doctor feels that you're going to be a diabetic or pre-diabetic. It depends. If you're just, at an optimal weight and you feel you're healthy, I think the normal blood panel I would recommend. But you can go really deep. Like if your cholesterol is high, I want you to do the expanded cholesterol blood work, the VLDL, to see particle size and how many particles. It can get really, really complex. Who I love for all this stuff is Dr. Peter Attia. Peter Attia, I love his podcast. I may be pronouncing his name wrong. I'll link it below this video too. He has a podcast called The Drive. And he's a Harvard doctor, like brilliant guy, super smart guy, and he's a longevity expert. And it's really incredible. He only deals with like a really exclusive, like small number of clients, and he charges like a fortune, but he puts out a ton of content. And he has some articles on the exact blood work he would recommend you get. And I have recommended it to some of my clients. Another person like Rhonda Kaufman, I don't know if you follow her. I think her site, her podcast and her YouTube channel is Find My Fitness. I might be pronouncing it wrong. And actually, I'm a member of her like blog, and she has a whole profile. Like for example, if you can order blood work. Sometimes the cheapest way to do this is to do like 23andMe and ask for like the DNA, ask for the like the DNA expanded blood work, and you can get a lot of the numbers. Like if you want to know your genotype, I mean, it can get so complex. I kind of like to stay in my lane, meaning that I'm a fitness trainer, I'm like a health coach, I've got undergraduate degrees and things like that. So I would look at the general blood work when I'm dealing with people, and if they have cholesterol, I would like them to do the expanded, particle size and things like that. And if I feel like they're overweight or insulin resistant, I would like to see the A1C to see if they're pre-diabetic or not, things like that. But I would, I'm going to pull up an article from Dr. Peter Attia's site, and I'll post it underneath this video as well too, so you can check it out. He's just, anything he says, he's just right on the mark, and he has a whole research team. And I'm a member of his. He has one podcast called The Drive, but then he has another podcast where you pay like $20 a month for, and you get exclusive content. And I'm a member of that too. I really recommend it if you're into this stuff. When he talks though, and when Rhonda Kalpin talks, sometimes it can get over your head. Like I'll listen to a 2-hour podcast and then spend like a couple hours looking up stuff that they mentioned, which is over my head. Let's see what Manny's got here. Okay. Berries, pumpkin. Oh, that sounds good. Coconut. I think that's great. Great, Manny. I think it's cool. Perfect. Let's see. About that was Dave's question about inflammatory markers. Yeah, there's so many inflammatory markers. Another guy that I follow that talks about these inflammatory markers all the time, with Dr. Stephen Gundry. I read 3 of his books. The Diet Revolution, The Plant Paradox. He's the doctor who talks about lectins. And his newest book, I think it's his newest book, is like The Energy Paradox, which was great too. And he talks about, he goes into detail about all these inflammatory markers you can look for to see what's going on. A lot of times when I'm reading these studies, like on intermittent fasting, they'll say, okay, these were the inflammatory markers they were looking at, and you should look for. But they're typically not in the standard blood work. Hey, Michael's there. Hey, Mike, thanks for stopping in too. That's great. And where's everybody from? I know where Danny's from. Let me know, because I'd like to go now. Let's go another 5-7 minutes, and then we'll close it up. Any other questions? Any other workout questions? Anything? And also, I was supposed to tell you this. I never ask people to subscribe to my channel or to give me a thumbs up, because I just feel like if you want to, you will. But people tell me that when you go live, if you give the live video a thumbs up, for some reason YouTube will show the live stream like recommend it to other people. So if you can and you're enjoying this thing, give me a thumbs up, and maybe YouTube will spread the word. We'll get some more people in the room for like the last 5 minutes. Let's see what we got. Okay. Oh, North California. Oh, cool. That's great. I know. It's funny. A good friend of mine is like right near that San Diego with that oil spill, but I hear they're cleaning it up really well. They're great. She walks on the beach every single morning. I felt bad for her. She couldn't walk on the beach too much. And then we got Michael. So UK. I got a lot of people from the UK. I'm dying. I never went to I went to the Channel Islands on a business trip with my wife once. I got deathly ill too, but I loved it. Even though I got sick, I mean, it was so fun being at the island. I got better. But I would love to spend like a year of my life in the UK. I really would love it. Okay. Danny wants, how's your training, Mike, and progress you're trying to drop body fat? It's interesting. I talked about this in one video, how this is the first year. I turned 59 at the end of August. And typically every time I turn 59, every time I get older for my birthday, I try to get in like extra good shape. I try to really get down to really like true 10% body fat levels. Typically, I like to just keep myself within striking distance where you kind of see my abs, and I didn't do it this year. This is like the first year I didn't make it. And I have to say, what I would contribute to, first of all, no question, the pandemic. It definitely threw me off. Definitely more time at home, eating a little bit more. It's funny, I'm doing sober October this month, where I don't drink at all, no alcohol for the month of October. I do that over the years. I like doing that. And I probably drank a little bit more wine than I typically would over the pandemic. Plus, I had closed my gym for 7 months. I just have to say, I definitely was out of sorts from this pandemic. Plus, I always talk about it from time to time. I had a knee operation like 10, 12 years ago that went with a horrible result. My knee's been really bothering me lately, so I can't do my typical like lower body type training, and that really keeps the muscle in your body, doing your squats and your leg presses, and even deadlifting has been bothering me. I do my RDLs a little bit, Romanian deadlifts where I don't engage my knees as much as doing like a traditional American deadlift. But I have to say, it's been a little bit harder, but I did an extreme protocol about a couple of weeks ago where I fasted for 20 hours every day. I did two workouts a day. Like I did my resistance training in the morning, then I did an additional like 45 minutes of either walking and Nordic tracking at night. And I'm feeling a little bit leaner. I'm doing the sober October this month, so I feel like I'm getting back on track. But I'm also, I don't know. I feel like you age in chunks of maybe decades. Like for example, if you look at the tagline on my YouTube channel, I say mastery health and fitness over 45. I have to say, when I was 44 years old, I felt like I was 18. I felt no difference in strength. I was still squatting 405 pounds. I felt incredible. And then at 44, first thing I had was a knee operation with a bad result. And I have to say, when I turned 45, I started feeling a little bit older, just in multiple different ways. And I've heard other clients say that to me over the years. And also, now that I felt 59, I feel like I'm in that next level. I'm just a little bit older now. I felt a little bit older turning 59. But I'm going to still, I think maybe I'll shoot for 60. Well, I'm going to try to get back down. I know Frank Zane, my favorite bodybuilder, has the picture right behind me. He used to do these, like, get in amazing shape for, like, big birthdays, like 60. I think he did one book. He looked incredible. He was, like, 50 on the cover of the book. So I think I'm going to shoot for 60. I also talked about how I'm going to give my knee one more year of focusing on trying to get my knee as good as I can possibly get it through mobility, mode, movement. I'm going to do a whole bunch of rehab. I do blood flow restriction on my legs where you occlude the blood in your limb. I do Russian stent. I'm going to try to get my knee as good as I possibly can over the next year. But if I feel like next summer my knee's still giving me a lot of trouble, then I'm going to go back to the doctors again and maybe try another operation. I tried a PRP. I tried cortisone. I tried those chicken comb gel injections. I tried a number of things over the years, and I'll see what happens. I might get another operation on my knee. It's not really arthritis. I just had I formed scar tissue from the first operation. Some people, doctors give me different opinions, so it's a little upsetting. Let's see what we got. Yeah, 10%. Thanks, Steady. It's impressive. I've been down there for most of my life. I'm probably now hovering around more like 12%. I can just kind of see my abs a little bit, but I'd like to get back down there again. And it's hard to say. It's not even, who knows? It's so hard to measure, body fat correctly. When I was in school, we did that underwater weighing, which was really pretty accurate. But nowadays, it's really hard to say. It's really how you look. I want to see, kind of see my abs, and I know that I'm doing well when I'm seeing my abs. Let's see. Hey, Boris just showed up. Cool, boy. I've been communicating with Boris. I think he's a wonderful musician. I think he leans towards jazz. I've been following him on Instagram. He's been following me on Instagram. I know he's into intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating. He seems like a really cool guy. I'm curious to know where you're from, Boris. But I've been watching some of your videos on Instagram. You seem like to be a wonderful musician. Let's see what we got. Okay. I'm very glad I started getting serious about my health in 2017 because I know it's important. Yes, immune system, viruses, no doubt about it. I mean, definitely, active lifestyle, no question. Getting outside every day, sunlight, vitamin D, right? You get vitamin D from the sunlight. I also take, I take a bit multivitamin. I take a little extra C. I take a little extra vitamin D every single day. Those are things you need to do. Great for your immune system. Just active lifestyle. And I always say, especially now being older, I've had to choose between going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week for an hour compared to just living an active lifestyle where you're just moving around all day long and you're not sitting still. You're not a couch potato. You're outside. You're walking. I think for most people, just walking an hour or 2 every single day, those corny things you hear, taking the steps instead of taking the elevator, right? Parking your car far away from the store you're walking into, just moving around, cleaning the house, doing gardening, and eating a healthy diet and fooling around with this intermittent fasting. More important, in my opinion, for longevity and living just a healthy life than going to the gym for an hour, a couple of days a week. I know tons of people who go to the gym for an hour, 2 days a week, and then feel like they can eat and drink and do whatever they want. And yeah, it's obviously going to the gym and maintaining muscle mass and putting on muscle mass is important, but active lifestyle is more important to me. It's key. Let's see. Oh, that's the same one. Okay, guys, let's see. Any more questions, guys, before I go? I've been on here for we got like an hour. I appreciate you people, especially the people from the UK, Danny, and I know you guys, it's late where you guys are, so I really appreciate you tuning in. And I kind of once again, like, announced this last minute. I'm trying to pick a set time, maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, where I do a live stream. And also, if you can, below this video, leave me some comments on some live streams you want me to do. I'm curious, you know, I used to do a lot of videos about different studies, but I'm not sure. A lot of people would leave a comment, say, Mike, you lost me, you know, just tell me what to do. Let me know if you like these studies. Let me also know if you felt like I put too many studies in this, like I kind of confused you and put too much into it. And just let you know, I'm still trying to figure out the direction in which I should take this YouTube channel. I love intermittent fasting. I want to make it a big part. You know, it's a big part of my life. I totally believe in it. But I also would like to do videos on you know, fitness and healthy lifestyle. But give me an idea of the type of videos you want. The confusion, it's so hard to get noticed on YouTube. You know, I mean, it seems like now if I don't do a video on intermittent fasting, like the YouTube algorithm does not put the video out, like no one sees it. But I'm still going to do at least one video on intermittent fasting every single week. Let's see, Wood Boy. Oh, Munich. Oh, cool. That's great. Excellent. Let's see. I'm going to, oh, thanks, Danny. I appreciate it. I know it's late where you are. I really appreciate you tuning in. Definitely keep in touch. Working out in the gym there. Yes, definitely. Let's see. Thanks, Deborah. Just telling me I'm the best. I really appreciate it, Deborah. Thanks for tuning in. That's wonderful. Intermittent fasting. Okay, guys, I'm gonna hit the road, and once again, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. It's a joy, you know, talking to everyone, meeting everyone from all over the world. It's really wonderful, and I appreciate all the time, you know, you guys spend watching my videos and all that. Let's see, maybe do videos on how to continue to write a diet plan, certain workouts and timing. That sounds good. I got a few. I'll do that. Like, you know, for example, you want like the type of foods you should eat pre-post workout, and then maybe workout and diet plans combined with intermittent fasting. That sounds great. I like that. Oh, Gene just got here. Hey Gene, how you doing? Thanks. I know. I'm sure you would have been here sooner if I pre-announced this. I know Gene. I think it's been showed up to almost, I think, every one of my live streams. So I really appreciate it. All right, guys. Thanks, Danny. Okay, guys, take care. Take care. Have a nice Sunday night. You know, I guess, you know, me and my wife are gonna make a nice dinner. Both my kids are at school. I think I'm gonna go visit my son next week. But take care, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Take care. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dave, too.